He's hope cored and pilled.
Welcome back. I think I clicked. Did I
What?
even save
Are we?
on the right?
Are we live?
I am. I did click record.
Are we? Holy shit! We're back.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes, we're in the
Welcome
right place,
back.
I believe.
Are we all
Back
working? Is everything recording correctly?
We have all the bars are moving.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the correct one. I just started recording when he wasn't expecting it, and you know.
Yeah,
like
fucking getting jump scared. Welcome.
It's because he's played. It's because he
Welcome.
plays reverse 999 the entire time, 1999 the entire time. He's never really fully paying attention.
It's true. It's definitely true. I definitely don't have it sitting on the auto battle that lasts for like an hour. There's one specific event that will show up like every month or so, and you can't fast forward it. Dislight had this problem too. You can't fast forward it. It's a maximum of 100 turns, and it's just, hey, hit the thing as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And I ran that one time, and genuinely, it took 38 minutes for it to stop.
Clearly, your builds are shit. Big guy.
Nah, it's because my sustain is crazy. Because you can't kill the enemy; it doesn't die. So I just fucking let that run in the background, and then we're chilling, you know.
Yeah. See how he's talking.
Battler my goat. The Ushiromi Family Conference was held once every year, on the first weekend of October. It was if a normal family were to hold a so-called family conference, you'd expect it to be nothing more than a reunion of rarely seen relatives who greet each other around buckets of sushi or something. However, part of the family's great fortune had been lent out to grandfather's children. No one in this family was considered an adult until they had at least met with success in business. So this meeting literally was a conference. How much of the fortune was invested? What sort of business was conducted? How much profit were earned? As a result, how much of the fortune borrowed from the main family could be repaid? Or possibly, how much more would be borrowed for future business ventures? What lessons they'd learn and what they could learn from their mistakes? It seemed that topics like these were discussed very seriously in the past. My dad said it was like lying on a bed of nails. Apparently, it used to be a very serious family meeting, where people were bathed in scornful and angry voices, and some people even got slapped despite their age. However, that had become a thing of the past. Now with everybody pushing their own business ventures and achieving success. Pursuing. It was becoming more of a normal yearly get-together. Even so, telling grandfather about recent events was extremely stressful. So while it was nothing more than a simple get-together for us grandchildren, it was still a real stomachache for our parents. The absence of the man who was the source of all this trouble, regardless of the reason, probably made today's lunch taste much more delicious. The phrase, "while the demon's not around, everyone can relax," comes to mind. Anyway, let's introduce Jessica's father, whose face I haven't seen in 6 years. The man sitting to my father's left is his older brother. The man sitting to my father's left is his older brother, and Jessica's father, Uncle Japanese. The name sure is easy to read. Kraus. Now that we've gotten used to this string of weird names, our perspective's totally skewed, so Kraus doesn't actually seem too bad. It even starts to sound kinda cool. Just like with Aunt Nasui, I didn't have many memories of speaking with Uncle Kraus. He'd never been one to chat to children, and I felt like he was always talking with the adults, just like Aunt Nasui. According to my father's gossip, he was a spiteful and violent man. If what he said is true, Uncle Kraus used to be very domineering from his position as the oldest sibling, and was despised by all the other siblings. Though despite that, those siblings all did seem to be chatting happily together. Rosa not included in this picture? Oh well, even if their relationship was bad when they were children, Sometimes when people grow up and live apart from each other, their relations change. That's probably what this was. After all, they had children of about the same age. By sharing the same family environment, they probably profited by exchanging opinions. Maybe because of that, a short while ago, the circle of parents began to discuss the exams Jessica and I would be taking. Jessica, in order to escape the questions about exams from my father on her left, purposely faced right while firing off a rapid series of comments, not giving him any chance to get a word in. Moving on, let's look at the opposite end from Kraus and the others. In the very last seat at the table, an old gentleman with a sturdy physique sat facing Kirie-san. This was my first time meeting him. I'd only just been introduced to him, but it seems he's grandfather's personal doctor, a man called Nanjo. I heard he used to own a huge clinic on the nearby island of Ninjima, but he turned it over to his son and began living a life of leisure in his old age. He had known grandfather since the very beginning, when the mansion was first constructed on this island, and he built up a relationship over several decades. I thought at first that the two of them might have gotten to know each other through grandfather's suspicious hobbies, but it seems he was actually just grandfather's chess partner. I see. That kind of hobby does seem like it's like, That kind of hobby seems like our...
No,
That kind of hobby seems very like our grandfather, what with his love of all things Western. Nanjo's probably the only person who could enter Rokenjima, despite being neither a family member nor a servant. He looked like a calm old gentleman as he listened to the discussion between Kirie and the other women who sat near him. Considering how long he stayed by the side of our short-tempered grandfather, his generous heart was probably nothing to laugh at. Still, even if he was a family doctor, having anyone outside the Ushiromiya family attend the conference was a little odd. Made me think that grandfather's condition might have worsened so much it'd be a major topic of discussion at today's conference. After all, George said something like that just a second ago. Something about how we've been getting continuous reports since around last year that grandfather didn't have long to live. It's nasty to think about, but consider how rich grandfather is. At the time of his death, his wealth will suddenly be released, probably along with a fair share of our parents' stomach acid. It'll lead to ulcers for everyone. After all, this sort of thing just gets messier when there's more wealth to be divided. There's a good chance they'll be talking about stuff like that at the family conference. Still, it's not like it's got anything to do with us kids. Finally, even though he hasn't showed up, let me introduce our grandfather. The person who should be sitting in that incipient chair is Ushiromiya Kinzo. It really sucks. Everyone else in the family has these weird names, but he's got this perfectly normal one himself. If only his name were written Kinzo, but he let us call him Goldsmith or something. I'd totally freak out. As you can probably guess by now, he's a frightening person with an extremely short temper.
I don't understand that fucking sentence structure. If only his name was written Kinzo, which I think this is supposed to be Goldsmith. Kinzo written like Goldsmith.
Like Goldsmith, yeah.
If only his name was written Kinzo, but he let us call him Goldsmith or something, I'd totally freak out. I don't really... Am I stupid?
What did Ryukishi mean by that?
Did we see...
Ryukishi... Go ahead.
Did we see how it's actually written? That's how it's actually written. I don't get it.
What's the text to the right?
That's the hiragana for his pronunciation.
Okay.
Kinzo. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea what the fuck I have no idea what Ryukishi is cooking with that one.
This is Ushiromiya, obviously.
Ushiromiya.
Kirie.
Do we have the rest of the tips to read?
Fuck, I don't know what we've read or not. We just got 2 tips
I
for
don't
like
think
Nanjo
we've
and
read-
Kraus, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't think we've read Jessica's family, Kinzo, or Nanjo. Wait. Yeah, we definitely didn't read Kraus. I don't think we read Natsui.
Okay. And then Nanjo and Kraus and Kinzo. I don't know. We do that now or later?
We can do that now,
Okay.
just because we're already here.
Ushiromiya Natsuhi, Kraus's wife. She manages the household of the Ushiromiya head family in place of her husband, who takes little interest in such matters. She was in charge of all I think I read this already. She was in charge of all preparations and arrangements for this family conference. She possesses a strong sense of responsibility and a great deal of pride. However, neither her husband nor his siblings understand her very well, so her position is far from enviable. Ushiromiya Kraus. Kinzo's first child. As the oldest of the 4 siblings, he leads the family conference. However, the other siblings think he is trying to get all the inheritance for himself, and this further strains the tensions between them. He's a real estate investor and has put a lot of money into the development of a resort. However, his results have been harshly criticized. Kinzo, the aged head of the Ushiromiya family. Even though it has already been announced that he has just a few months to live, he is brimming with energy. Though he amassed a vast fortune in the past, he never made any announcements regarding the inheritance, which worries his children. He is strongly influenced by the West and is a rabid fan of the occult. His study is packed with mysterious grimoires. And attending physician Nanjo. Kinzo's attending physician and longtime friend. He once ran a hospital on Nijima, but he turned it over to his son and now enjoys his old age in peace. Exactly, just word for word what Badler just said. Now that
He's just called attending physician Nanjo here?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm so used to Dr. Nanjo.
Now that Kinzo's constant suspicion has reached extraordinary heights, Nanjo is one of the very few people he trusts. Thanks to Nanjo's big-hearted nature, he has been able to continue his friendship with Kinzo despite the latter's tendency to fly into a rage at the slightest provocation. Alright.
That's crazy. I already read the top, right?
Nope.
Okay. As you can probably guess by now, he's a frightening person with an extremely short temper. I'm one of his grandchildren, not a son. I hadn't seen him since elementary school. Thanks to that, I have no memory of being beaten myself. But our parents were apparently raised with an iron fist. That earlier conversation between my dad and Uncle Kraus about who should go convince grandfather to come down seemed pretty darn funny once you know their background. You can't really tell grandfather's story without covering the pivotal event back before the Showa era. 1926 to 1989. Until the Meiji, 1868 to 1912, and the Taisho, 1912 to 1926, eras, the Ushiromiya family was great and prosperous. They owned several spinning mills, making them rich enough to just double over laughing every day as the money kept rolling in. Incidentally, grandfather was a member of a branch family, and had pretty much nothing to do with the main family. Not only was he way down the list of people who could inherit the headship, but he had hardly any contact with the glamorous main family. However, during the Great Kanto earthquake in the year Taisho 12, 1923, the mansion owned by the Ushiromiya family in Odawara was flattened. The spinning mills in Tokyo were all burned down in a huge fire, and the Ushiromiya family lost most of its wealth and family members in an instant. So once they started trying to figure out who the successor to the Ushiromiya family should be, they apparently found no one remaining except Kinzo and his branch family. In Kinzo's later reminiscence, he referred to this as good fortune, so great that it overturned fate. With that, grandfather's boring everyday life did a 180. He was entrusted with reviving the Dainushiromiya family, which had nearly lost all of its wealth. However, just because he'd been entrusted with this task didn't mean he could accomplish it. Apparently those around him weren't really expecting much. However, this is when Grandfather began displaying his extraordinary talent and good luck. Grandfather used all the family's remaining wealth, as well as everything from the hair on his head to his toenails, as collateral in order to borrow a massive amount of money. Once he built up a gigantic war chest, he immediately invested in businesses. It was like someone tumbling down a hill on a bike without any brakes, and then jumping onto a neighboring bike, and then another one, just like some crazy street performance. I'll bet everyone thought Grandfather had no business ability whatsoever. However, after several miracles and turns of good luck, with coincidences piling up every chance being taken advantage of, he was suddenly in control of very powerful connections with the occupying forces. At the time, MacArthur and the GHQ were the ultimate authority in Japan. Grandfather, in a twinkle of an eye, began succeeding in business under the protection of the occupying forces, quickly becoming very rich. By this point, it's probably safe to say that information, not luck, saved the day. He must have made some seriously deep connections with the occupying forces. Grandfather knew beforehand about the emergency demands that'd be made for the Korean War. Nah, it was more than that. He must have predicted those emergency demands from the very beginning, when he started investing his money. The history books make it sound like all of Japan made a large profit off the emergency demands during the Korean War, but that isn't exactly true. Only a very limited number of super rich played the money game and made an easy profit. Most of the citizens remained poor. In other words, Grandfather was a member of this extremely lucky group of winners. I'm pretty sure this all happened during the year Showa 25, 1950, or so. The Great Kanto earthquake happened in Taisho 13, 1924. So, that means Grandfather was able to revive the near-dead Ushiromiya family in about 20 years, to a level even higher than it had ever been before. With that, you'd think he revived the main family in Odawara, but for some reason, he went and did something as crazy as buying an entire small island in the Izu archipelago. Buying an entire island is not something you can ordinarily do today. However, Grandfather was clever. He contacted the GHQ and applied for the establishment of a marine resource base. He acquired this island as a business property, then tossed that project aside and claimed it as his own plot of land. After the war, there were prevention measures against food shortages. Having the sponsor of the GHQ meant that nobody could oppose him. From what I heard, the Tokyo metropolis of that day offered this land to him practically for free. Later, Tokyo made difficulties by telling Kinzo to return the land, but the pushy GHQ intervened. Anyway, it seems under-the-table bribes did their work well. In the end, the city gave up in frustration. Grandfather, with considerable skill and good luck, managed to weather the stormy seas of that period, obtaining a vast fortune in his own land. His own island. Of course, it probably wasn't all luck. He was obsessed with all things Western, which helped him cultivate his English skills. He was able to use this to his advantage and sink his teeth into the GHQ. A mansion was built on the island soon after. This mansion, in fact. Grandfather, with his love of the Western style, made this once uninhabited island a canvas upon which he could realize his dreams to his heart's content. He now had the Western mansion of his dreams, overflowing with emotion and atmosphere, and a beautiful garden featuring all sorts of roses. And he had a private beach where nobody other than himself would ever be permitted to leave a footprint. This was a dream come true for any boy. After that, he made a good use of this huge fortune. becoming a large stockholder in the extremely stable iron and steel industry, and was able to live an easy and comfortable life just using the dividends. Well, he's just that incredible. This kind of person usually has the ability to foresee and predict the future, or at least that's how they're portrayed after the fact. But Grandfather denies all that, repeating saying that he was simply blessed with extraordinary luck. Anyway, even a lord like that can't help but grow increasingly eccentric when locked up alone on an island, where all dreams are made real. Everyone knows that he's had a Western obsession from the start, but none of our parents knew when the bizarre black magic hobby began. Did his love of black magic begin way back when he became fascinated with everything Western? Or did his miraculous stretch of good luck, while reviving his family, cause him to feel a mysterious power in himself? At some point, Grandfather began to make the research of black magic his life's work. He filled his study up with suspicious books, chemicals, and magical items as he became increasingly bizarre. From what I heard, those around him warmly watched over him, figuring that someone who had achieved success in life had the right to do as he pleased. But there's no way that's true. They were probably just creeped out, thinking, that's disgusting and I don't want to get involved. Anyway, that agitated period was an age of big gambles, with both opportunities and risks. Well, let's just say Grandfather was born in this time period. He would have had no opportunity, and he would have had no opportunities, and would have probably have advanced like a chess piece from mandatory education to college at a leisurely pace. Never becoming more than an average salaryman. If that happened, he'd probably have sat somewhere, happily talking behind his boss's back. Nah, not in a fancy dining hall like this. More like at a table in some bar. Then again, I'll bet this family conference would be a whole lot more relaxing if that was the case. Alright, that's enough about the old geezer. More importantly, let's talk about this incredible lunch. Thank you, Battler. I'm already convinced by that sashimi salad appetizer. Goda-san's an excellent chef. Plus, these fish were caught in the adjacent seas, weren't they? They're totally different from the sashimi you get at the supermarket.
Hey, quit it, Battler. Your upbringing will be exposed.
Everyone let out a big laugh. Damn it. You say that even though you love those cheap pubs. Oh, you say that even though you love those cheap pubs. Holy Battler monologue, man.
Yep. Episode 1.
There's a lot of those.
Episode 1.
There's a lot of those in this. Oh. I wonder why, like, genuine question. I wonder why Ryukishi decided. Episode 1, all that type of monologuing is done by Battler. Every other episode, neutral narration.
It's a very interesting question, Connor. I wonder if you could wrap it up in anything actually relevant in the game. I was curious.
Weird, curious. What a strange thing.
Perhaps
Ryukishi
that
to
should
do.
be something you think about in the back of your mind.
Curious. I've eaten at many unusual places because of work, but this stands right up there with the best of them. I'd be willing to bet Goda-san used to be pretty well known in those circles.
Well, I don't know the details, but stuff got complicated at the long-standing hotel he used to work at. With them opening a new establishment with the same name and breaking into factions or whatever it was. In the middle of all that, he was apparently forced to retire. At that time, Mom just happened to be sending out job offers for her servant.
As Goda removed the empty plates, he began to recount his own bumpy past without losing his smile.
The world is a difficult place. However, thanks to the madame, I was given a chance to display my skills as a chef once again. This time proves where we are family. Although I enjoy experiencing the smiles of a larger number of people, I also find it quite entertaining to perform more delicate work that can please the limited number of those who have employed me. All this is thanks to the opportunities given to me by the Madame.
Goda-san respectfully bowed his head towards Aunt Nasui.
That's because you're the most talented of the applicants. The decision was purely objective, not based on personal feelings. So there's no need to thank me.
Dang. Why does Aunt Nasui always have to sound so indifferent? If only she spoke with a bit more kindness, she might leave a different impression. Shannon-chan and Kumasawa-san entered from the hallway with a servant cart.
Please excuse us.
Now then, let us move on to today's dessert.
Goda-san and the others laid out the beautifully adorned dessert out in front of all of us. I guess it's true that they say... What? I guess it's true when they say you have another stomach for dessert. I thought I'd already filled up on delicious food. But as soon as I laid my eyes on that dessert, my stomach started yelling more. I don't know much about desserts, but this looked real good. A white pudding-like substance was garnished with 2 shades of red sauce, and elegant rose petals adorned the dish. Normally during a high-class meal like this, you're supposed to wait for the chef to extol the virtues of this particular meal before eating. However, Maria was completely indifferent to the strict rules like that. She got excited by this beautiful and delicious-looking dessert, jumping into the fray as soon as it was placed before her. Aunt Rosa scolded her, calling it bad manners, but George responded by saying,
No, it's okay.
Ooh, this part's sour. This part's sour. Battler, this one's no good. Ooh. Maria exclaimed as she sampled the 2 colored sauces. What? Some are good and some are bad? Alright, I'll give it a go. Apparently one sauce was sweet and the other was sour. Despite it being bad manners, I also stuck my little finger in it and licked it. Whoa, one of the sauces was sour enough to make you pucker up. If it were yellow, I would have suspected lemon, but I couldn't guess what kind of sourness would be red. I decided to ask Shannon, who was pushing away the serving cart behind us. Shannon-chan, what kind of sauce is the sour stuff? Shannon-chan hesitated. Maybe her job was just to set the table, so she doesn't really know. Still, even considering that, she seems pretty stressed. Maybe I shouldn't have asked. Or did they use some ingredient that we'd be better off not knowing about? While Nasui made a gesture that seemed to indicate an oncoming headache, Kumasawa-san, who was sitting at the table at the opposite seat, began to chuckle.
What do you think we made it out of? It'll shock you.
I don't have a clue. Wait a sec. Kumasawa Ba-chan, that laugh's pretty creepy. So what is it?
Don't tell anyone, okay? Fuck. Don't tell anyone, okay? Listen very carefully.
Kumasawa-san leaned across from the other side of the table. I leaned forward myself when she asked. Their interest caught Jessica, George, and Iki, and, of course, Maria also put their ears closer. Ooh, what? What? Quickly! Quickly!
You see, the sour part is made from juice squeezed from a mackerel. Oh!
What?
Mackerel? That's crazy.
We all thought horrified. Thank you, cousins. Very cool. Only Maria accepted it, nodding sagely. Ooh, mackerels are sour. This is what comes out when you squeeze them. Wahahaha. When Maria started clamoring that mackerels were sour, the adults were unable to contain their laughter. Only Aunt Rosa, her face red, whispered to Maria that mackerel is sour only when prepared as
Shime-saba.
Shime-saba? Ah, now I totally remember. Kumasawa-san was always like this, wasn't she?
Why were you in 2 times
I
speed
think I
there?
Was I?
Just a little bit. Just for that, now I totally remember.
Oh.
It's very funny.
It's a speed run, actually. My bad. Ah, now I totally remember. Kumasawa-san was always like this, wasn't she? I think I remember her tricking me too in all sorts of ways when I was young. The most lethal's gotta be that one. Those flimsy black things in Chinese dishes. They're like
They are
Kikurage. Yeah, they're like Kikurage mushrooms. She told me they were penguin meat, and I went all around school saying what? I went all around school like a smartass telling everyone, didn't I? Kumasawa Ba-chan, you sure haven't changed? You know Maria's gonna believe it now, right?
Oh ho ho ho, it's just a joke. Now Goda-san's going to tell us what the sauce really is, won't he?
Goda looked a little put off about his masterpiece being laughed at for such a bizarre reason. But after clearing his throat once, he introduced the dessert to us.
Well then, allow me to introduce our dessert. After seeing how much you all enjoyed the rose garden earlier today, I finished this panna cotta in a rose garden style. The rose petals scattered across were selected just now from that very rose garden. The sauce is a combination of 2 reds, strawberry and rose hips. Please enjoy the mixture of the strawberry sweetness and the rose hip sourness.
We do know what happens to that fucking rose. To Maria's rose, don't we?
The mysterious rose that goes missing?
Yeah, clearly.
Does it get turned into food?
He took
Bombs in the food?
He took a rose from the rose garden and used it used the petals, clearly. Surely.
He took the wilted, sad, specially marked rose from Maria, laughed in her face, punched her in the head, and then put it in the rose garden. Or sorry, put it in the food. Where was I?
Furthermore, the rose petals are merely decorative, so please avoid them while you eat. With that said, please enjoy.
Whoa. Man, I almost want to applaud before eating. Just like with medicine, reading a detailed description first seems to make it work a whole lot better. Is that true?
I don't know. I don't think so.
It
might be one of
I don't
those
think that's true.
might be one of those
Placebo?
placebo effects, yeah.
But even as a placebo, I don't know if that's true. That feels weird to me.
That's absolutely like a placebo effect. Oh, this medicine's making me feel better already because I read the. I don't know. It's probably just a placebo effect.
I feel like I would feel worse.
From reading the.
Reading like all the
description of
detailed
the-
like this medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, where the medicine will be like, this shit's gonna blow your fucking head move off if you take more than one every 20 minutes. Hey, oh, get out of here. I don't want to read that shit.
Okay, bro.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay. Read that.
As Goda-san elaborated on the details of this dessert, it started to feel even more appetizing. Seriously. Should you just call him subtle or talented? The dessert was probably planned from the beginning, but taking the hint when we all stopped in front of the rose garden earlier today,
Oh, oops.
he displayed incredible and timely awareness just by adding a few rose petals from that garden. The combination of sweet and sour was also exquisite. It was just if it was just sweet, you'd get used to it and bored halfway through. But if you reached the sour sauce at that point, you'd really get a vivid taste. And then, once you return to the sweet sauce, all the sourness in your mouth would be replaced with an enjoyable sweetness. I'm sure everyone else felt the same way. Every time Goda-san passed by one of our seats, someone praised the taste in his presentation.
How is it, madame?
Splendid, as always. It is worthy of entertaining our guests.
I am most grateful for your words. Madame, did you know? I've heard that rose hips has the ability to cure headaches. I thought that you in particular would appreciate it, so I had it specially prepared.
Is that so? Thank you.
See, didn't I tell you, Natsuine-san? Rose hip is great for headaches. He's blowing up his webcam. Paste.
Oh, I DC'd.
Oh, it's unplugged. Yep, there it goes.
Great frame. So
Good
it
frame,
seems.
good frame.
I do hope it actually helps. You gonna reconnect anytime here?
I know this is like a weird thing to shut out. Make sure it didn't blow anything up on OBS's side.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, we're still looking good. Well, there he goes.
You gonna come back anytime soon here, big guy? Big guy?
Boopa. Bow.
Yeah, it says it's DC, but it's fucking lie.
He's back. Yippee!
Ah, Goda-san, I love you. Hey, later on, why don't you tell me how they're treating you? Well, if you can't, just let me know what sort of salary you'd like. Having your talent confined to this small island is sacrilege to humanity's cooking culture. What do you think about working your craft for my company and delighting all our customers?
Tyler, you got quieter.
I got quieter?
Yeah.
How?
Not by like a major amount.
Quieter?
Quieter.
I can unplug and plug the microphone back in. I mean, I was yelling into it right here.
There we go. Yeah. That's what you.
Yeah,
were sounding like.
I'm leaning back. Like normally I'm right here,
Maybe.
and I was like right here.
Okay.
This
Maybe
shit
I'm just
is
geeking.
like 2 inches changes a lot here, and it looks the same on mine.
Would you say?
So it looks the same on mine?
Would you say 2 inches is gigantic? Then it's like a major change. You know, like more than an average change.
Cut that. Cut this joke.
What? What? Oh, Hideyoshi-san, are you trying to steal away our Goda? Now that won't do it all. We'd better start treating Goda better, or he'll get snatched up. Yes, you really should. If you don't, someone's gonna grab him, and you'll be stuck with 3 meals of Kumasawa-style mackerel cooking a day, won't you?
Oh, that's harsh. It seems someone's holding a grudge against me.
Everyone let out a huge laugh. According to Jessica, Kumasawa-san's mackerel jokes were a running gag that our parents had long since gotten used to. Kumasawa-san often claimed that mackerels had precious nutritional value, which could slow aging and make people smarter and more. Supposedly, while it couldn't stop the outward signs of aging, it helped prevent it on the inside. Since she was still spirited enough to tell these kind of jokes at her age, there must be something to that theory.
Yeah, it smooths out all the wrinkles. Yeah, it smooths out all the wrinkles in your brain. It really helps with that.
Based? Kumasawa has the smoothest brain of all, I think.
Oh, oh, in that case, if you'll excuse me, prepare yourself for tonight's dinner. I'll be cooking plenty of mackerel dishes for you all, so you better look forward to it. We sure will. Jesus. Can't wait to get all puckered up from tonight's shimisaba.
That sounds wonderful. I wonder if they'll be serving any good Japanese sake.
Oh, we certainly will. Haven't you heard of Okanjima's famous mackerel shochu?
Wahahahahahaha. Kumasawa-san, together with Shannon-chan, bowed and pushed the serving cart away. It was pretty funny to watch Goda-san, who looked like his show had totally been stolen, explain in a serious voice that we'd be having calf steak for dinner.
Kumasawa-san, thanks for doing that. Thanks for doing that back there.
As she pushed the serving cart, Shannon bowed her head very deeply. Oh, I haven't done anything that requires thanks. Kumasawa may have played dumb, but she had obviously understood and saved Shannon in the nick of time. Back when Battler had asked about dessert, Shannon had unfortunately hesitated. There may have been several ways to dodge the question, but all of them would have required some quick wits. Shannon, who hesitated when hard-pressed for a response, was always suffering because of this small weakness. If only Shannon had a little of the craftiness needed to cleverly shake off a mistake like Goda, her life would have been a bit easier. The fact that she could perform other tasks flawlessly made this weakness even more unfortunate. However, there were some who understood Shannon's honest nature, her inability to gloss over a mistake, and draw attention away from it. That was why Kumasawa had smoothly come to her rescue.
Rescue?
I heard from Genji-san that there would be a change in the afternoon shifts. I believe you were given a break until this evening. I'm jealous.
Huh? Oh, sorry. I haven't checked the shift chart yet.
Ah, yes. I was thinking I might start cooking some mackerel in the oven. If you don't mind, I would be happy if you would help out a bit before your break.
Yes. I would be delighted to help.
To Shannon, Kumasawa was like a mother among the servants.
The dining hall needed to be cleaned up, so we were chased out. Instead, tea was being served in the parlor. Apparently, they prepared the black tea that Aunt Rosa had brought for Aunt Nasui. Maria said she also wanted to have some black tea, but my old bastard said she couldn't and told us children to go play outside.
Battler-kun, why don't we all go for a walk outside?
Go ahead and take a look at the roses or something. But keep a close eye on the weather. The sky is still clear, but the weather report kept on talking about rain.
Ooh, I want to go to the beach. The beach! Oh, that sounds wonderful. Playing on a sandy beach isn't something you get to do often, is it?
Good point. Okay, let's all go to the beach then.
Ooh, let's go, let's go!
Maria, be careful not to get your clothes wet. Or your shoes.
Ooh, won't get wet. That obedience is so cute. Battler-kun, make sure you keep an eye out for Maria-chan, okay? Yeah, sure. Leave it to me.
Hey, you're pretty obedient and cute yourself. Listen to Kirie like that. Why don't you also listen to me obediently for a change?
Ha! Hell no. Let's go, everyone. Come on.
The children flew out of the parlor. They were replaced by Genji, who pushed a serving cart in and prepared to serve the tea. Tea. The parlor was filled with a sublime aroma, which delighted everyone while they waited to sate their thirst.
Us family certainly seems close. Oh, it's a wonderful thing.
Quit it. I'm no match for your family, Aniki.
That's true. You've raised Jessica-chan to be so adorable. I imagine that's yet another fruit of your talents at education and training, Natsuhine-san.
Thank you. Thank you. There you go. That's Nazi answered coldly. The conversation broke off then, and the parlor fell silent. Maybe Hideyoshi couldn't bear the silence, because he broke it himself with an exaggerated gesture. Still, they sure do grow fast. I thought they'd be kids forever, but they started getting huge all of a sudden, and then they're adults like us. Battler-kun looks like a completely different person now.
His body has grown much bigger, but he's still just a kid. Though you could say the same about my husband.
I wonder where the border between child and adult is. I still don't feel as though I've grown up.
Isn't that pitiful? That's not something the mother of a child should say. That's right, we're not children anymore. We're all adults now. So I wish we could just talk together on an intellectual level, rather than an emotional one. Rosa, be vulnerable for 0.2 seconds. Die!
When Ava smiled with sharp sarcasm, everyone seemed to get more tense. It felt as though that pleasant tea aroma had been tossed out the window.
Since long ago, we've always endeavored to engage in intellectual conversations. It seems your sarcasm occasionally misses its mark. Just as it always has. Oh, what is it you've always endeavored to do? My. I wish I could wrap those words up and send them to this room a few decades ago. Right, Rosa?
Rosa gave a vague smile. She knew that, whether she agreed or disagreed, she earned the displeasure of one of her siblings. It was a bit of worldly wisdom that had been essential for someone growing up as the youngest sibling. Quit it, Aneki. We better get started on our main topic while the brat's aren't around. Let's make that our intellectual discussion. As Rudolph glanced over the faces of all present, some let out a slight sigh, and some let a small look of resignation cross their face. They were approaching their unavoidable true agenda. Last year, his life expectancy was estimated about 3 months, which I guess means he's got negative 9 months left now. So we take that to mean it might suddenly happen at any time. The family head is still alive and well. The fact you'd bring up such an inappropriate topic under the light of day makes me doubt your sanity, Rudolph-san. Still, Nazi-san. This is the sort of thing you can't put off until after something happens. He's still healthy now, which makes this the perfect time to talk about this. Well, we've still got time to plan. It's just a bit of financial etiquette, you might say.
It seems Faja is the focus of everyone's concern. Dr. Nanjo, could we hear the details from you? That appears to be what everyone else is waiting for, after all.
Nanjo, who had been standing by the window and staring out at the rose garden, let out a small, single cough when he realized that he was being called. Dr. Nanjo, how is father's condition?
Well, to begin, allow me to start with a revision. Since my estimate last year, that he had only had 3 months left, was not borne out.
That's it. Right?
No need to explain. You're saying that measuring remaining life is only a prediction, not a promise, right?
That is correct. Because of that, while I will accept everyone's repeated questions, I can by no means confirm when he will pass away. A human's life is supported by their body and their mind. If the body is weak, the situation becomes much more dangerous. But if the mind is strong enough to compensate for that weakness, The effects of one's condition can sometimes remain in a subdued state.
Complete bullshit.
Yes.
Complete
So you're
bullshit.
saying that even if his body is weak, his mind is still firm and spirited.
Kyrie. Kyrie. Sorry, but please stay quiet for a bit.
I'm sorry.
That is correct. Kinzo-san's body is being overwhelmed by the demon of ill health. This will hold especially true as long as he continues to partake in such strong alcohol.
So he's in a crisis now because he drinks. Or maybe he's lived this long because he drinks. That's Dad for you, the heavy drinker.
Well then, Doctor, I know you can't give anything more than a prediction. What do you think our father's chances of living until this day next year?
That's quite a rude question to ask about the family head. Natsu jumped on Ava, not even bothering to hide her astonished expression. Ava stared back daringly, but Hideyoshi realized what was going on and tried to smooth things over with a forced smile. Ah, Natsu-san, forgive her. Ava, choose your words more carefully, okay?
I'm sorry. I was just so concerned about father's condition.
Is that so? I hadn't realized.
Dr. Nanjo, please tell us, was the sake of the beautiful love of a daughter worried about her father's lifespan?
Kraus laughed sarcastically, and Ava, smiling sweetly, returned an identical chuckle.
You ask whether he'll still be healthy next year. But as a doctor, it's very hard to say. Because while I do think this lull in his condition will continue for a while, if he suffers some kind of fit, there may be nothing we can do. After all, Rokunjima is a solitary island. It's not as though an ambulance could quickly jump in to save him. Normally I'd want to have him placed in a large hospital on the mainland, but...
Faja stated that he does not want his noble research interrupted. It seems he holds a grudge over the way we tried to force him out last year. Apparently, he strongly suspects that he'll be shut away in some hospital if he goes outside, and that's how things are now.
Has Dr. Nanjo been examining him?
Faja trusts Dr. Nanjo. It seems he can be examined when in one of his better moods.
I could examine his condition, but if I try to recommend medicine or hospitalization, he refuses to listen. I've really only been able to look.
It's true some people hate doctors. Still, what a hassle. Nanjo sighed deeply. The purpose of an examination is to determine what medical treatment would be appropriate. Receiving an examination and then not following the advice given makes the whole thing pointless. So, to sum it up, he's still expected to live 3 months. There's no way to guess how long he'll continue to live while still on the verge of death. Rudolph-san, couldn't you be a little more discreet with your words? Sorry. I've always talked this way. Give me a break.
I understand how Dr. Nanjo sees it. What about you, Kraus-san?
To be perfectly honest, I have to disagree with Dr. Nanjo. I find it truly difficult to think of Father as a person so sick that he only has 3 months left to live. His yell is as healthy as ever, and I still get chills at the thought of his fist raining down on me. Pushing the care of your father solely on the shoulders of the eldest sibling is far from fair.
In the next world, get born after me. Okay, let's get back on track. So in the opinion of our impartial and neutral doctor, it wouldn't be odd for him to go anytime. That's I think you're the foundation for your your conclusion there is faulty. Might be a little bit faulty.
Yeah, bold to assume the guy that has known Kinzo longer than any of you have been alive is impartial or neutral.
Well, more than that, right?
Or that he is telling the truth.
No offense to you, Aniki, but I'd rather trust the opinion of an expert in his field. Which means it's definitely not too early to start talking about dad's assets.
Father's personal fund probably reaches as high as several billion.
Several 10
What?
billion yen.
Several 10 billion yen, right? But it's not as though that's all neatly gathered as ready cash. It's not as simply as cutting a birthday cake with a knife.
That's an interesting way to put it. That's right. You sometimes get strawberries or chocolates on top of the cake, making it hard to cleanly cut into equal parts. Given that, don't you think it's important to discuss beforehand how best to stick the knife in? I cannot understand how you can all openly discuss this as though the family head is dead, even though he's still alive.
Come now, don't you see how important it is? After all, when the time comes, the inheritance of his fortune must be carried out immediately, right? Moreover, the glorious Ushiromiya's house's wealth is vast. Don't you understand that careful discussion is necessary beforehand? There's a huge difference between this family's resources and your family's wealth.
How rude! My birth family has nothing to do with this! Natsuhi responded indignantly, though in a low voice, and the already dark atmosphere grew even more hostile. Give it a rest, Ava. Natsuhi-san, forgive us. Pardon her rudeness. Hideyoshi tried to smooth things over by glancing at both with a forced smile, but it only resulted in making the hostility between Ava and Natsuhi even more intense.
It seems I'll just get in the way if I stay any longer. Please excuse me.
Nanjo rose from his seat and exited the parlor. To an outsider, it may have seemed like a normal act of courtesy, but his back was watched by several glances envious of his ability to escape. After the doctor had exited, and his footsteps had disappeared into the distance, Kraus recrossed his legs.
In other words, this is what you all would like to say. Father's remaining life is short. You want to quickly enter into a practical conference concerning the distribution of the inheritance? Why are you all so eager, I wonder? Certainly, as you say, estimating and distributing the Ushiromiya's family wealth is no simple task. In that case, shouldn't we make careful and deliberate calculations? It seems to me that you're all impatient to split up the cake tonight. Isn't that true, Rosa? What reason is there to be hasty?
We aren't being hasty. However, we need to have an agreement between the siblings.
That's Shannon.
Doesn't matter it doesn't matter when we do that. But if the day father's condition worsens is approaching, discussing the matter beforehand hardly seems hasty to me. Rosa shot a glance at Ava and Rudolph. As the youngest sibling in the family, it was hard for her to be cross-examined by the eldest.
Oh, is that your true opinion? I didn't expect that the most honest and pure-hearted of the siblings would say something like that. I wonder if those two told you to say it.
Quit it, Aniki. Quit it, Aniki. Rosa-san's one of Dad's kids, too. She's got as much right to his inheritance as the rest of us. It's only natural that she'd be interested. After all, Dad'll definitely die, and that's not something that'll happen in the distant future. On the contrary, Aniki, you're way too relaxed. It almost seems like you'd like nothing better than to turn the discussion away from the inheritance issue.
What do you mean by that? Are you trying to accuse my husband of something?
Calm down, Natsuhi-san. Listen to what we have to say.
Nissan, I hear the times have been extremely good lately. Since last year, you've been in unprecedented boom, and the yen keeps on rising. It seems that it's no longer a dream that the dollar will reach 100 yen. Also, the ruling party says that it'll establish health resort maintenance law by next year. At this moment, resort development companies across Japan are running about, trying to gather as much funding as they can. Oh, you certainly seem to know a lot about it. Japan is about to experience an unprecedented boom. It'll be a repeat of the Korean War demands, the timing day in which father revived the Ushiromiya family. The people of Japan have been working like mad, achieving vast economic growth and becoming the most well-off people in the world, reaching the height of our prosperity. We've reached an era where private spending is vast, which means easy money for the institutions that can capitalize on that fact. The three kinds of electrical appliances no longer represent the people's needs. The people need ski resorts, golf courses, public pools, resort hotels, and theme parks. Have you gone to Disneyland, which opened just a few years ago? What an excellent theme park. It's a place where even an adult can be a kid and have fun with his family. No longer do we count our sole virtue to be selfish devotion while failing to care for our families. We have become the most prosperous people in the world, and now we can finally enjoy the benefits.
Grouse-san, your foresight's nothing to sneeze at. When I heard that sort of thing several years ago, I thought it was crazy. But when I heard about the G5 Nations Plaza Accord, that all changed. The yen shot up, and I'll bet the price of land skyrockets soon too. It won't be long before Japan becomes the economic center of the world. You've got a great sense of direction. The world's moving, Grouse-san. At least there can be no debate about that. I feel the same as Hideyoshi-san. Aniki, you can read into the next decade of history. I'll bet you got that keen sense from Dad, and it's incredible. However, unlike Dad, the timing of your predictions has been a bit off sometimes, right?
Nissan, you've been starting resort projects everywhere, convinced that Japan will soon boom, but almost all of them continue to fail. While I'm sure that the era you predicted will soon arrive, it seems you've misread the timing of that boom. Is that still Ava? Okay. You were too early. You then panicked and tried to sell everything off, which only opened the wound even further. If your nose was really so reliable, then there should be no reason for you to sell off your property. Is that proof that you mistrust your own ability?
How rude! Are you trying to insult my husband? Natsuhi's forehead creased as she rose from the sofa. Ava, paying this no heed, stared at Kraus with a confident smile. Kraus, who also maintained his confident appearance, told Natsuhi to sit down.
Please stop, Natsuhi. Ava's always been incapable of talking any other way. Calm down a little, or your headache will get worse. There's proof of your lack of talent right next to us. After all, Nissan, weren't you all excited about turning this island into a resort? You built a wonderful resort hotel and beautifully maintained the garden. I'm just an amateur and don't pretend to understand, but you must have used a significant amount of money for that, right?
And what is it? What is that to you? My husband's business is none of yours. Actually, that's not true, Natsuhi-san. Okonjima doesn't belong to Aniki. It belongs to Dad. Of course, the hotel does belong to Aniki, right? In fact, we'd be more than willing to pay lodging fees for tonight. What do you think, Rosa? Well, if what I have on hand will suffice.
If I can make it into a resort, this island's financial worth will rise. It is true that the expenses have piled up, but we can expect a large harvest in the future. When that happens, all of you stand to profit as well, do you not? I understand that. If the value of this island rises, that'll increase our portions when we distribute the inheritance. Of course, I won't ask you to divide the island and the mansion into 4 equal parts. We can just resolve that matter with money equal to the value of the property. If you understand that much, what about my business makes you so dissatisfied?
We aren't dissatisfied. We're uneasy. In the first place, Iniki, when do you plan to open that hotel? Left this way, you won't get anything out of it except our grubby handprints, right?
That's right. It's an important tool for your business, isn't it? Surely you can't keep it locked up until the moment you open it. Buildings go bad if you don't use them and air them out every once in a while. Even so, it's a bit extravagant for a guest house that we only use once a year. Right, Rosa?
That's right. Considering how wonderful it is, I'm sure it'll become quite popular once you open it.
Oh, so the hotel you keep talking about is the guest house.
It's splendid. Just as Rosa said, if you were to open it, I'm sure it would become popular.
The lodging they had been guided to wasn't originally intended to serve as a guest house. It was originally constructed as a resort hotel. However, even though it was built 2 years previously, there was still absolutely no prospect of it opening.
Nissan, it's just like all of your enterprises. Your attention and planning are both fabulous, then it always becomes unmaintainable partway through, and ends before you have a chance to earn any profit.
You were brilliant when you saw that using this island only as a place to live was a waste. I think it was a pretty good plan to turn it into a resort that could use the prospect of marine sports, fishing, honeymoons, and the like to attract customers. If I were the oldest son, I'm sure I'd drain my brain looking for a way to make a profit off this island.
But 2 full years have passed since you finished the building, right? After 2 years, you still haven't had the opportunity to open it. Where's the managing company you entrusted it to?
Impertinence! This is not my husband's fault. There's just been some trouble with the company that my husband contracted with. No matter how you look at it, we are the victims here.
And yet, the rumors we've heard about this company you hired haven't been good at all.
Let's be clear about this, dear. Did you really think we wouldn't hear about how lack of payment, embezzlement, and other issues led to the project disintegrating mid-flight? We even have evidence.
I don't know what kind of evidence you think you found, but it's all baseless. As new members in the tourism industry, it is necessary for us to lay the groundwork with various people. It's also important to investigate the trustworthiness of our partners. It's merely taken us some time to meet that goal.
I'll admit that in my rashness, the hotel was completed too early. However, it's not as though we're paying maintenance costs. It's a foundation that will eventually become immensely profitable.
Immensely significant.
Oh, significant.
Liar. I'll bet you want to liquidate it, but can't. After all, there's no reason for anyone to buy such an extravagant hotel on an isolated, empty island without any established sightseeing routes. But anyway, what about all the loans you've made for this project? Even if you aren't incurring maintenance costs, the borrowed money that you can't return just keeps growing. Sorry, Kraus Nissan, but I've investigated a development plan for this island a bit. To be honest, I haven't heard anything good either.
Hideyoshi-san, I can see how you might be left with that impression by looking only at the current financial situation. However, this is a forward-looking investment. I have no choice but to admit that my prediction was mistaken, and that up until now, several liabilities have been created. However, the times have finally caught up with me. I will soon regain everything that I have lost up to this point. No, actually, all of the investments I have made until now will finally return to my possession. That's right, just like throwing away a small fry to catch a salmon. They will come back even bigger than before.
I'll accept that. The resort business will probably see an unprecedented boom before long.
though I don't know if it'll be enough to cover all your debt. However, Kraus Nissan, after all your failures in the past, who exactly do you expect to provide you with funding? This isn't some small amount we're talking about. I didn't know it said it like that. You'll need enough funding to fill the massive hole you've dug. What are you trying to say, Hideyoshi-san? Natsuki-san, please don't get angry. We looked into this too. We checked to see who might have provided Kraus-Nissan with enough financing to support his recent large-scale projects, despite a string of failures. And we discovered that no such backer exists. The iron rule of the money roulette is that you bet against the loser. Aniki, you're a fairly well-known loser in this field. It's true that the prosperous times are about to come, but when we looked for people who considered that enough to overlook your string of failures, and also had enough for the investment, we found no candidates.
So, the big question now is where you got that money from. Oh, now isn't this intriguing? And?
Dear, how long do you plan to let these ridiculous remarks stand? Sit down, Natsuki-san. Let's cut to the point. Aniki, you've been diverting Dad's private funds for your own businesses. There's pretty much no room for doubt. If you think we've made some kind of mistake, please, feel free to explain.
Rudolph, don't call it diverting funds. This is embezzlement, plain and simple. A huge crime that can be criminally prosecuted.
This sort of rudeness cannot be tolerated. How can you face the success of the Ushimiya head family and level those absurd accusations?
They aren't absurd. They're right on the mark. I'm sure he'd like to somehow make his businesses succeed and recover his losses, but his debts keep getting bigger. He's just trying to cover up the failure of one gamble by making an even bigger one. It's only natural he'd try to grab any source of funding close at hand. Let me be frank, Nissan. What you're doing is embezzlement. You're betraying father. You know that we'll have the courts settle this after it's all over, right? Do you think that kind of person has any right to call themselves the successor to the Ushiromiya head family?
Of all the... You dare to claim that he has betrayed the family head? You no longer have the right to straddle the threshold of the glorious Ushiromiya family. Leave this place at once. Now, get out. Fuck, get out. Natsuhi, who had already reached the limits of her anger, shouted at Ava in a rage. She then pointed alternatively at Ava in the hallway, demanding that she leave. Ava took out a folding fan and fanned herself with it, glaring maliciously at Natsuhi, as though silently daring her to repeat what she'd said. However, her mouth was still smiling, curved in the shape of a crescent moon. In that unpleasant silence, Rosa gulped.
Ava's still, right?
Yeah, I think it's Ava.
Hey, Natsuhine-san. To whom do you think you are speaking in such a tone?
I am speaking to the exceedingly rude sister of my husband. As the person in charge of the main family's kitchen, I cannot overlook any more of this.
In charge of the kitchen. Be silent, lowly maidservant.
Ava folded the fan with a snap and rose to her feet energetically. Compared to the elegance and playfulness she'd shown until a second ago, she was now unimaginably aggressive.
How foolish. You stand down before Ava of the Ushiromiya family. Yeah. You
What?
tell me to stand down. What?
Hold on. I don't know.
You tell me to stand down. Me, Ushiromiya Ava, the third ranked in the Ushiromiya family hierarchy, and the one allowed to sit to the left shoulder of the head. Know your place. And then look at your shabby self and where is the symbol of the wing on your clothes? Where are you permitted to wear the one-winged eagle? Aren't you noticing what? Aren't you nothing more than a borrowed womb to the house the next what?
Bro.
Aren't you nothing more than a borrowed womb to house the next successor to the Ushiromiya family? Understand your place, you common housemaid.
Ava's face twisted hideously as her words gouged into Natsuhi's heart like talons, wrenching at it. There were 100 ways Natsuhi wanted to respond. However, her anger and sorrow crushed her throat, and none of those words managed to make it to her mouth. Her anger had nowhere to go, and became a single hot tear that slowly tripped down.
What's wrong? If you had something to say, please do so. Come on.
Ava faced her with a provocative gaze. However, Natsuhi could do nothing but tremble, clenched fists quivering. Kraus quietly broke that powder keg tension.
Natsuhi, leave your seat. You should go cool your head.
What? Natsuhi, resenting the fact that her husband had not come to her aid, shifted the focus of her attack. Dear, don't you understand what they're saying about you? These people are basically calling you a traitor to father. They're making light of the fact that we protect the glory of the Ushiromiya family, even though we are constantly expending every effort to earn the glory from father. Earn that glory from father. They trampled all of that underfoot with their hateful rambling, and you don't even try to fight back? Why? I'm only standing out for us because you won't, but you've been putting the entire burden on me for some time now. And now you tell me to go cool my head? It's always me. Even though I've always considered this family's affair seriously, you've... Natsuhi was already unable to hide her tears. She flew from the room in that state. After that, all that remained was a somewhat embarrassed mood about the parlor. When the sound of footsteps grew distant and silence returned, Kraus shrugged his shoulders slightly.
I apologize for my wife. She has always been bad at controlling her emotions. It's even been rough for me. If that's what's been managing your household, you must suffer to no end, Nissan.
But madam, it's nothing. Leave me be. Natsuhi flew into her room and threw herself onto her bed, lamenting. Those heart-wrenching sobs reached Kumasawa in the hallway.
Poor Madame Natsuhi. There's a deep enmity between her and Ava-sama. Explaining their relationship would be very trying for me as a woman. The Ushiromiya family holds blood in high regard, but if a woman marries and leaves the family, they are normally removed from the family register. Thus, under normal circumstances, Ava-sama should have been removed when she married Hideyoshi-sama. However, there's no one deserving to blame in this matter. There is no one deserving blame in this matter. The madam certainly bears no guilt. There is nothing to call it other than a whim of God. Kraus-sama and Natsuhi-sama were not blessed with children for some time. After all, this is a male-dominated Ushiromiya family. A wife is merely a tool to create an heir. If such a wife cannot fulfill her duty, she will not even be treated as a human. It pains me to remember how the master tortured Madame during that time. Back then, a wedding between Ava-sama and Hideyoshi-sama was being discussed. Ava-sama was sly, taking advantage of Madame's inability to become pregnant. She gained the favor of the master. She inspired him to allow her to marry and give birth to a successor herself, making sure to avoid transferring her name out to the Ushiromiya register. There was a vast difference in the Ushiromiya hierarchy between Madame, who married into the Ushiromiya family and was treated like an outsider, and Ava-sama, who was related to the family by blood and whose husband took on the Uchumiya name. Furthermore, Eva-sama actually gave birth first, and to a boy. As to how much weaker Madame's position was than Eva-sama's, well, I believe you could see for yourself. I'm sure Madame is tormented by the thought that if only she had gotten pregnant earlier, the master wouldn't have accepted Eva-sama's request to keep her last name after marriage. And Eva-sama wouldn't have been permitted to act as arrogantly as she did today. However, that is not Madame's fault. All of the blame lies with God's whims and the stork that delivered Jessica late. Even so, Madame won't allow herself to see things this way. She probably can't help but cry bitter tears as a woman for her inability to carry out the duties expected of a wife. Ah, how sad. I cannot do anything except watch over her from the shadows. Holy moly.
I forgot how much just random Kumasawa interjection there is in this fucking episode.
Alrighty. Next time.
I think this may come as a surprise to some viewers. I believe everyone in this story should die.
Surprise, surprise.